my next life, I will be something other than Cuban. Something less charged with emotion, something weighed with less history, something blue-eyed and neutral, something boring. Swiss, maybe. But in this life, I'm Cuban, inescapably so. At least I've always said so, to myself and to others. Cuban, not American, not Cuban-American, just Cuban. There have always been doubters. You're not really a Cuban, they say. You are American. And so the long explanation. My family has been on this island for more than 400 years. I was born here. I am Cuban because I insist I am Cuban, against all the evidence. I've been back a number of times, for personal reasons, but mostly for work. I'm a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Coming here has always been difficult for me, an existential stew filled with fragments of memories from my childhood. I remember my great-grandfather's garden, the heart of a family compound which connected to my house next door. A Garden of Eden, really, where a dozen cousins played as my great-grandfather sat eating a mango, immaculate, in a white guayabera. I always come back here, the place of my unmooring, as if the umbilical cord tying myself to this land is buried here. But if I've been an exile all of my life, what am I now, and what will Cuba become? An old man is dead. A new American president could revive him. The coin is in the air. Havana was a hub of the Spanish Empire, then a bloody war, a U.S. occupation. Cuba became independent in 1902, a difficult birth. Sugar money built Havana into a cultural powerhouse, but the island's politics have been tumultuous, a mix of elected presidents, uprisings, revolution, dictatorships, a couple of U.S. interventions. Fulgencio Batista took power in a 1952 military coup, bringing an abrupt end to the island's democratic progress. My family hated what he stood for. They sympathized with the resistance movement, and when Fidel Castro entered Havana in 1959, we took to the streets to celebrate with everyone else. We hoped the island would see a just democratic government. Things didn't turn out that way. Fidel threw in his lot with the Soviet Union. Suddenly, the island was on the front lines of the Cold War. People like us were seen as the enemy. In October of 1960, Fidel issued a decree confiscating all major businesses, including my grandfather's department store. 3 weeks later, we left. I was 7. But I never got Cuba out of my system. I always hoped to return. I always felt as if I was marking time until I did, that my life off-island was somehow not real life, that my real life was going on back in Cuba without me. So in 1979, I went back for the first time with a group of young exiles. We built houses for workers in a government-owned textile factory. In the evenings, we listened to talks by top officials about Cuban society. I had wanted to see Cuba with my own eyes. I had a fantasy of living there, but I hated what I saw. The austerity I could live with, but not the lack of freedom. Cuba, you see, is built on suspicion. From the beginning, neighbors spied on neighbors. The government enforced ideological purity. Opponents were marginalized. Some went to prison, others left for exile. Many took to the sea, some in flimsy rafts made from inner tubes. No one knows how many were lost. The decades of spying and being spied upon have left a mark. Many Cubans are careful in conversation, even in their homes. At times, people look around to make sure there's nobody listening. Although people speak their minds much more than before, old habits die hard. But Cuba has changed in ways that may seem small to outsiders but are big here. Cubans now have cell phones. They can buy and sell their homes. They can travel outside the country. Many have started their own small businesses, like restaurants or taxi services. There are internet hotspots in cities, crowded at all hours by young Cubans connecting to the world. For me, these are green shoots growing among the ruins. Havana crumbles. Houses collapse every day, especially after a hard rain. But there is a difference now. Around the city, some Cubans are fixing up their homes so they can rent out rooms for about $40 a day, a king's ransom in Cuba. We're becoming a nation of amateur innkeepers. We sing for our supper. One could do worse, I suppose. Havana is crowded with tourists. They rent 1950s convertibles. They drive up and down the Malecón. They're here to see this grand ruined city before a tidal wave of American tourists hits it, and in their eyes, ruins everything. And what has Cuba become, this great crocodile astride the Caribbean? Fragments of a poem, seed drowned in sand, a great curve of size, a future caught between desire and fear, a present half in the past. I've moved on as much as one can move on. I've accepted that my being Cuban was my fantasy. No tienes aire de cubano, one person tells me. You don't have the air of a Cuban. I feel as if I'm in disguise, and in a sense, I am. Having lived outside the island for most of my life has mellowed my Cuban accent. People I meet ask if I'm from Argentina, or Spain, or Italy, or Venezuela. I say, no, I'm from here, from a few blocks down the street. Most times there is a certain awkwardness. No one has any interest in the details of my departure. Better silence. Better leave things unspoken.